Hello and welcome to the Section 109 podcast from Studio Breezy. This Monday, Matthew is not super overdressed, so that's nice for Jim and I. He's not in a suit anymore. I am joined today by two lovely gentlemen, Matthew and Jim, who's looking around like he's not a lovely gentleman. Yeah. We're here also with Babo Juan. Toby is right here, who you can probably barely see on the camera. And then Mix is right here. We'll see if they go crazy at any point during the podcast if the mailman arrives. We are on all the platforms. If you wouldn't mind a like, comment, subscribe, review, all of those things make us really happy as podcasters. And yeah, we're here to talk about CFC's opening game. Spoiler alert, 2-1 win, 3 points in Fort Lauderdale. Before anything, boys, I want to know, how are the vibes? How are the vibes going in for you, and then how are the vibes coming out?
We'll start with Jim.
I had no vibes going in because the preseason was great. It's hard. It's hard not to be optimistic about going into the season after you go undefeated in a preseason and you play basically every level of soccer in the United States and don't lose. An amateur team, a college team, a League One team,
championship
team, and
an MLS One team,
MLS team. So we played the pyramid as and I was pleased by the offense that I saw in the preseason. Was happy, and so I was optimistic. We did reasonably well against this team last year, but it's a whole new year, and so I was optimistic. It's away, so you always go in going, well, let's just at least draw. Let's just get points, and so so I was coming out of it. I'm really happy for the points. I've got some general overall concerns that I don't think it would surprise either of you. So I think it's 3 points on the road, and that's never a bad thing. And so we'll see. The team is young in their development, and so I'm cautiously optimistic.
Matthew?
CFC has not lost a football match since September the 1st of last year.
Our final game of the season?
I said September the 1st of last year.
How many competitive matches have we played in that time period?
Like 4. It's actually 5.
Honestly, for the vibes, I'll allow it. We're talking vibes, but vibes only. I'll allow it.
If you remember, that was the Atlanta debacle at home. On Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
Because then we rattled off the win against Columbus, the draw at New England, the win at Toronto, and the draw at home against Red Bulls on decision day. I find it interesting. So I was a mature adult all of preseason.
Bullshit.
And did not have... very intentionally did not want to get too high on winning a bunch of preseason games that don't actually matter. And that being said, I'm going to allow myself to feel pretty good about winning on opening day. And here's why. Jim, you had literally just said, on the road, getting a draw is a good result. And it is. But this league is the principal reason we failed to make the playoffs last year on a results basis is because we had too many draws.
Right.
We didn't turn enough draws into wins. We won 9 games last year. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we didn't turn a lot of those draws into shootout wins,
then we're not
even close. Yeah. So between goalkeeping and some clutch performances, we over-indexed even in those draws.
We massively over-indexed last year. So
some of that deserved through good play, but yes, we were lucky too.
So it's really important that in a game where we were really good in some moments, we were a little shaky in moments. It's really important that we were able to cobble together 3 points to start the season, and to cobble a win for the first tiebreaker at the start of the season. I think that should give the group a lot of confidence, especially because they had to weather a really tough storm. That Miami team...
Would you say it was more like a hurricane?
That Miami team is pretty decent. They put out all their press pre-match basically in the 2 days before. The coach is an assistant coach from last year. They brought back 14 players from last year, which is practically unheard of.
Where's the coach from?
Argentina. Where else would they be from?
If you haven't been following along, Inter Miami is almost solely made up of Argentinians.
It's pretty fun.
It is, and I don't mean every player. It's like every time
literally
you like
every
wonder
layer.
who somebody is, you're like, oh, that guy's from Argentina.
Yeah. What a surprise.
Their coach did depart. What 2 weeks? When did Federico Higuain leave?
It was like officially it was like a month before the season started, like right at the beginning of preseason.
Gotcha. It didn't seem like much had changed from my
No,
perspective.
and it's not going to. But like they brought back 14 players. Like that's unheard of in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah. What do you think the average is when you look through how many players most teams bring back that are on MLS Next Pro deals? Let's say.
I mean, oftentimes it's like you might have 4 professionals come back. Now, in their case, they probably had like 7 professionals because 7 were just academy players that transitioned over. I think they had 4 academy players sign their first professional contract, like played on academy deals last year, signed pro deals this year. They had other academy players that are re-upping their second academy year. Some of those guys are, by the way, are like 19, like legitimately. Like they had a forward who didn't even make the bench in this one, who scored like 7 or 8 league goals last year. And he was on academy contract then and also now. But like, I bet guys are willing to do that. You kidding me? You're playing with Leo Messi. Like you're practicing sometimes with him. Like I think Miami is one of those teams that kind of just throws everybody out there on some days. We should ask Fareed about that.
Definitely.
From his time there. Like it's, that's a very talented group. And I think you saw that come out. I mean, look at the possession. By the way, you can tell this is a new era of CFC. First game of the regular season, possession, 34%, 35%, whatever it was.
Was it really that low? Yeah. I haven't looked at any stats. I watched the highlights about 16 times, and other than that, I haven't done anything.
No, that's like not terribly a surprise. Like if you watch Big Miami, like that's what they want to do. They want to go out and dominate games. They want to go out and play these intricate passing combinations. Like if you watch
34%.
If you watch Inter Miami and also Inter Miami 2 in the span of 3 days or whatever, like you clearly see it. Like they're doing that thing. And by the way, when we were down in Fort Lauderdale for the game in August of last year, we saw how far they had come, and the types of stuff they were able to play and willing to play. I mean, they were playing some blind passes that were just perfectly synced up. And something I mentioned to you during that match as we were watching was that it appears this group has just picked up where they left off. This Miami group. There's some new players in there, but like overall, they've just kind of continued to do the thing. And I thought that from when we scored in the,
it was
2 minutes and 1 second in.
It's like 2 minutes and 4 seconds in or whatever. Yeah, keep going.
To, about halftime. We had some chances, but like really until about halftime.
I would argue it was between minutes 5 and 25 or 3 and 25, whatever. They really dominated. We had moments in the second part of the first half, like from minute 25 to 45, like it wasn't an even game, but it also wasn't an uneven game.
Yeah.
It was just like they were the better team, but they didn't do a ton. They did a little bit.
Not a whole lot.
But we were able to like find our footing after about minute 20, 25 in that range.
So one of the things
but minutes 3 to 20, we were holding on by a fingernail.
You say all that, but we still outshot them in the first half. They only had 1 shot on goal.
So I think they were.
Half.
I think they were essentially one.
They looked like us last year.
Yes,
they were one pass away.
I was going to go. Yeah,
they were one pass away from like breaking us wide open, but it happened.
Yeah,
10 possessions.
Yeah. And so like, we bent but didn't break.
Yeah.
Other than that first goal that they got tied up. And we weren't bad we weren't terrible in the first half, but it was a little nervy. And we were I would argue we were off the rhythm, off the pace. We were late to every challenge there for about 20 minutes. Where just like every time they would pass, they were a step ahead of us, and they were really controlling it that way. I think we found our rhythm around minute 20, 25.
Yeah, and by the way,
we stopped being late to every ball, late to every. So then they couldn't
That's not
tear
that
us apart.
Uncommon to go when you go on the road for the first time.
Totally.
Like that's
the first 20 minutes of a game, when you go on the road, the first 20 minutes of a game, you just got to survive.
Yeah. Right.
So like I'm not mad about it, but I do think it was very evident. Like there was sections of that game.
I think you're also seeing, and this is a wild thing to say, but like the athleticism in MLS Next Pro oftentimes is mirroring the athleticism you see in MLS, especially these last few years. Like that league is getting so much more athletic. And like we joke about like, League One, like being an athletic league. That's because they can't kick a ball. Like they have to be, right? But the entire American game has always been an incredibly athletic country when it comes to soccer. Mm-hmm. The technical aspects are also getting like just better and better and better and better now. So players that are coming out already have the athleticism. Otherwise, you basically don't survive youth soccer, which is kind of a problem, but that's a topic for a different day. But now they're adding the technical components to it. And so, these classes of players that are coming out, 17, 18, 19, 21 years old, are overall the best American players we've ever had. Now it's like sometimes superstars go do superstar things, but like in terms of the breadth of the class, they're just better. And we're seeing that like this is one game, but the level is higher than last year. Again, this keeps happening.
And we saw it last year. Like there's a lot of really talented players. They're not always the best teams, but there's a lot of really talented young players.
Yeah. Miami appeared to be a much more cohesive group than I have seen early in a Next Pro season with a sample size of now 2 seasons.
Yeah. So Matthew, take me through the lineups. And I know this year we've decided we're going to add a thing to our game reviews, and that is the ages of the lineups, the average ages, those kind of things. So take me through kind of our lineup, their lineup, and then some age things I think is interesting.
So in goal, Eldon made his first official competitive appearance for CFC. Right back, Tate Robertson. Left back, Milo Garvanyan. No surprises there. Fareed Zarzar was the left center back. Logan Brown was the right center back. That was the group that started against Tennessee Tempo in the last preseason match. You had Nick Mendonça.
And I think against UNC as well.
I think Dudley started against UNC.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Nick Mendonça at the 6. Callum Watson and Alex McGrath as your center midfielders in front of him. Minjae Kwok started on the left side, the left wing, we'll call it. The left forward, if you want to be more specific, I think, to how this group wants to play. Daniel Mangarov, who we are now nicknaming Mango officially. Whether you like it or not. Mangarov was on the right side, the right wing, and then Keegan Anslin, where he's been most of preseason, is the starter at the 9.
I think some of the interesting things are who didn't make the trip. You and I found out pre-game talking to a few people that we may have had some injuries, some little small injuries this week. Amzian did not play against Tennessee Tempo.
Yep.
And in talking to some people after that game, they said he was nursing a minor injury, and it would make sense that that's why he didn't start in this game, or at least couldn't start. I don't know if he would have been slated to start, but Mangrove hasn't started at wing. He hasn't been a winger other than for like 15 minutes during the preseason. Yeah. So you would think Amzian didn't start because of injury. Jesus does not make the trip, and I was told that was also a an injury of some kind that I don't know any details on. Cross our fingers, that is, knock on some wood, that is nothing super serious. And then Peter, also small injury, didn't make the trip.
Yeah, because we saw him for about 10 minutes at the end of the Tempo game.
And I didn't expect Peter would start because he hasn't been here all preseason. He's just getting in, but I really thought he'd be on the bench and available for the last part of the game for subs or whatever else. So it was interesting and already a bit of a makeshift formation for us, which gives me more good vibes that like we had some players that maybe are expected to be like rotational starters or who are expected to be coming off the bench more or whatever else, just start and go a large portion of the game, and we got 3 points.
There's a reason why teams need depth.
For sure.
Like there are going to be injuries. There's going to be rotation needed. There's going to be whatever. Like you need players that can play up and down the group.
Something Jim and I have complained about is our number of wingers. And we have 4 on the roster, and 1 was healthy, it appears.
Yeah.
And 1 was there and on an injury. So like already a rough spot. Now Mangarov played excellently there, and it may just be that I won't speak for Jim. I was wrong in that we have five winger spots. Mangrove not being principally a winger, but being a regular. I mean, Alex McGrath saw 10 minutes in that game out there. Always forget that he can play on the wing. But like Mangrove looked really good, and if that's the case, that he's just like winger number 4/winger number 5, he's just in that rotation there or whatever number he is. But like he's one of the winger rotations, then we have 5. He's just, a midfielder and a winger, which makes me feel a little bit better after, because he gets the hockey assist and the assist. Like he was very good.
I really thought when I saw the lineup posted, I thought I was really having a hard time figuring out what formation this was based on what I thought these players were doing.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a 4-1-4-1? Is this? I didn't know until we started kicking off.
We've been roundly noted for being dum-dums about the 4-1-4-1, even though they've clearly lined up in a defensive posture like that.
They've clearly played a 4-1-4-1, but a certain head coach, Chris Nugent, through some intermediaries, has said we've never played a 4-1-1, a 4-1-4-1.
I don't know. I mean, he needs to tell his players that, because they've obviously been in a 4-1-4-1.
He needs to talk to his own like placement on the board, because there's a shot from Instagram that Matthew had screenshotted of him like showing something to the players, and it's clearly in a 4-1-4-1.
Yeah.
He doesn't have written 4-1-4-1. He has them placed in a 4, bank of 4, a 1, a bank of 4, and a 1.
Yeah.
But he was adamant, again through an intermediary.
I know a 4-1-4-1 and a 4-3-3 aren't actually that different.
Correct.
But yeah, we've been. I mean,
yeah, correct.
I mean,
This is one of those.
I respect Chris.
I am glad to be wrong.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where like how you classify the formation really doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Because you can have, and I'm going to use the example of the Charlotte Miami game last night, just because it's top of mind and it's easy to do here.
What league do they play in?
MLS.
Never heard of them.
Literally played both of those teams.
You mean Crown Legacy?
No, we played Charlotte FC MLS Next Pro before they were even in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah. We did.
Like 3 years ago. That's right.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to them.
Anyway, so like Charlotte plays a back 4, right? They defended a back 4, but Tim Ream is their left back, so they attack in a back 3.
Sure.
Principally,
like we used to do with Colin Stripling.
Yeah.
These things shift a good amount.
Right.
And
that's why coaches get mad at it.
It's important not to get hung up on silly things like formations.
See, I disagree.
Or like that.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm it's a wonderful thing to get hung up on.
Bingo.
Like Mango's principle.
Like I spent 10 minutes at the beginning of the game moving little pieces around, trying to figure out exactly what formation we're in.
Coaches and players like to say it's just a starting point. It doesn't matter. But for podcasters and dummies like us, it's really helpful when painting a picture and thinking about things to have a formation.
Yeah.
I think for us, it's all about like what players can do and what positions on the field they can do things in. And then how do you start? How do you flow to get to those positions where they can be most successful? So, yeah, that's my piece about that.
Take me through Miami and their ages.
So Miami Let's pull
None
it
of
up.
them can drink legally.
Yes, one of the starters could.
I thought 2.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well,
One of the
yeah.
starters could, and then a substitute for
Yeah.
one of the starters who could
But
drink.
2 subs can.
Also depends what country you're in.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
okay.
So Miami's goalkeeper is 17.
I'm being U.S. centric here. I'm sorry to all of our international viewers and listeners. I apologize.
All 4 of you in the history of the show.
So Miami's goalkeeper is 17. MLS Miami's number 2 goalkeeper has been out injured, so their number 3 has been on the bench. So we had a 17-year-old goalkeeper. Their back line was 19, 19, 20, and 19.
Which honestly, by MLS Next Pro standards, is fine.
The 19-year-old center back is on an MLS contract. The 20-year-old is on loan from Boca Juniors. What a surprise!
So those are not too. So like you see those and you're like, boy, those are children. Those are not like academy kids who are 17 and getting their first. Like those are legit. Like they obviously have a very high ceiling and they're going to have a very high hopes. Miami 1 is.
You go across the midfield line 18, 20, 22, and 19. I think the 20-year-old's on an MLS contract as well. Don't quote me on that. The 22-year-old was a draft pick. 18 scored 2 or 3 goals against us last year. Then there's the 19-year-old on the left-hand side. Their attackers were 20 and 17. And then their bench was 18, 19, 22, 18, 21, 19, 17, plus 2 unknown, which likely denotes they were academies, 16, maybe 17. Somewhere in there, we don't know.
You did the average age of the starting lineup or the average age of the whole roster?
Average age of the starting lineup was like 19.2 or something like that.
I thought who scored? What was the age of the guy who scored against us? What was his position?
He was the left back. He was 19 years old.
It's a nasty finish. Very, very quick shot. Very, very good shot.
They got some good players. And it helps that they have a lot of them back.
Yeah.
It just helps a ton. So
for us, what was our average age?
I don't know, but like more than theirs.
Well, yeah. 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 Our keeper can be their dad.
Speaking of, happy birthday
Our
to
keeper might be their dads. You never know.
Speaking of,
Be one of their
happy
dads.
23rd birthday to Mango today. Happy 22nd.
Happy birthday, Mango.
Happy 22nd birthday to Keegan Anselin yesterday.
Happy birthday, boys.
Which means that our age profile just jumped from 283 on game day to 285 today.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All-
When you add up
all 11
the
combined.
sum
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
ages.
Sorry, it took me a second there.
So it would be 24.5 today if you just include the outfield players and leave the outlier in goal out of it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. You can't leave because it counts, but like it is interesting to do the it with and without him because with Eldon it just takes us up like a year and a half on our average age, the one outlier. So, Matthew, why don't you take me through the 3 goals?
Yeah, so goal number 1, technically the 3rd minute. Miami's building out of the back, and their left center back tries to complete a pass to their left back, who's super, super high. And I don't know if he mishits it. I don't know if he just like didn't see Mango.
I think Mango's just sitting on it.
Mango's clearly sitting on it, but like I don't know what leads to that decision making. But he plays the pass. Mango's right there, picks it off, drives down to draw some defenders. McGrath's on his horse. Keegan Anselin's on his horse. McGrath kind of runs in behind. Mango plays it for him. McGrath cuts it back. Keegan has to step across the defender. It's a great little step across and just redirects it towards the corner. And it's a quick goal.
It's beautiful. It's a little bit like if you're an American football fan and you remember watching Ed Reed, who would like sit on routes and get interceptions. Like he was just such a dominant, like it's like very much that, like we're waiting to spring the trap and like baiting the quarterback, or in this case, baiting the center back into making that pass. And when he makes that pass, and they did make that.
Because nobody's on him. Like the correct decision there is to change the angle.
And he does the rest of the game.
Yeah, the rest of the game.
He does the right thing. But like it's early. It's their first game. It's very like, oh, I'm just going to make this pass, and we're ready, and we spring. And you know that we're ready because instead of having last year when we would get one of those turnovers, it was only Alex McGrath who would usually step and get that ball like that. And then there would be nobody that could catch
nobody
up
with him. Yeah.
And in this case, when Mango steps and gets that and starts,
Everybody goes.
And we have, if you watch that replay, Minjay.
Yeah, he's hitting the top of the box right around.
Probably gets, if that takes a deflection, if it gets saved and deflected across the box, or if it takes a deflection and goes across, Minjay probably taps in at the back post. We have another runner in addition to the three guys. So it's just really good, and it also shows a little bit of the game model change.
Yeah.
In how we're doing things. And one thing that I think we all talked about, one of our off-season pods was like, we didn't see us capitalize on the MLS Next Pro moments, which is like a bad pass out of the back because you're trying to build.
Because they're going to pass out of the back. That's what they do.
And they're going to build. They're going to build. And we made a few of those turnovers last year, but we really only had like one. You call it two if you're being generous, like capitalizations of that. First game, 2 minutes in, we capitalize on one of those passes. And it's just really good to see. And I think hopefully a harbinger of things to come, which is that we're going to make teams pay for some of their choices that they make. And that's a different from last year where they felt, as you mentioned in your vibes check, like it felt a little bit like we felt last year, where they took control and they weren't only horseshoeing of death. Like they had some terrifying stuff, but like they also just horseshoed a lot. And in that second half, once they made that bad pass, not the second half, once they made that bad pass, then they did a lot of like bouncing between the center backs because they were scared to make that pass again. But we didn't do that. We kept the ball a little bit when we needed to, but they pressed reasonably well. But what we did is we took advantage of our opportunities.
And the moments when they had numbers up the field, sometimes we played extremely safe, cleared the ball out, whatever, cleared it upfield. Sometimes in certain moments, we were able to play out of the back. And that's what generated opportunities with some better numbers going forward. And our second goal, our game-winning goal, comes from one of those moments where we didn't have a lot of the ball to start the second half. And we finally are able to kind of really break out. One of those like not actually dangerous, but like semi-terrifying for you and I moments where we finally clear. I think Fareed's the one that clears the ball or outlets the ball to Minjay. And Minjay just drives for 20 yards, 25 yards, whatever it is, slows up because he's being tracked by two, slips the ball out to Milo, who slips the ball out to...
Milo doesn't slip the ball. Milo very rudely chips the ball right over top of a guy to Alex, and it bounces, and Alex gets control and plays out wide.
Out towards...
It's just really rude from Milo.
Alex plays out towards Tate, who plays it forward for Mango, who checks back, and Milo this entire time has continued his run towards the center to fill that space.
And he's not only in the center, he's actually to the right side. He's in the right channel of the top of the box. Receives the ball, takes a touch then to the top of the box to get central. And the dirtiest little ball roll.
Yeah.
And just does... So the other thing we haven't had for a few years outside of Marcus, essentially, and Milo did this a little bit last year, but especially prior to last year, we didn't have anybody that could do magic on their own. Like, other than Marcus. It was Marcus did magic, or we had to score a team goal. There was no, like, so-and-so did magic and they did it. That was just pure Milo magic. He does an unbelievable job getting into a good amount of space, and then that little touch to get himself free.
Yeah. Well, they leave him alone. I mean, we push them back, and you said like he
gets between the six and
Milo fills that space, and the cross in the we play him in there, and that's the shot that we didn't take last year or the past couple of years. We've just not taken that shot that's. What if you've heard me talk, you've heard me say zone 14. We don't take those. We didn't.
We give up goals from zone 14.
Yes,
we don't score them from there.
We don't score them. And so that's the one thing where I even tweeted out. I mean, I quote tweeted the shot and just said zone 14 finally. I mean, it's just that area of the pitch when you can drive a team back through the wings and then cut in is just that's not exactly what happened, but it's my favorite type of goal. And to see him settle the ball, that little roll to set the ball up nicely for his. I mean, it was just, and the shot was just really filthy.
It was filthy. And the little ball roll.
In fact, it took me a second. Like, it was so. I mean, I thought it bounced off outside the goal for a second because nobody's in the stadium, so there's no reaction. There's no reaction.
Yeah,
our guys just kind of start, and it wasn't until I saw the ref point that I realized that the ball had gone in. I mean, it was. I don't know. It was. Of course, I was. At this point, I was watching. No, I guess at that time I had made it home. I was watching on the TV, but for most of the game, I was watching on my phone, so it was hard to see what was going on.
The way you know that a goal gets scored is to just watch Tate Robertson.
What does Tate do?
Because Tate, and this is like, you know, you can see this from his highlights at Lexington. You can see this in the Milo goal. Tate's not one of those guys that's going to like run and sprint towards the person who scored. Like, he's 27. Like, he's old now. Like, all he's gonna do is just put his hands in the air.
Okay, I'll look.
Okay, so Tate is the goal. Tate's the goal indicator.
Like just the hands go in the air. Like, his head goes down a little bit. His hands go in the air, and then he'll start making his way.
Yeah.
But like that's how you know.
That's beautiful. I did not know that little trick. I also, when I rewatched it, like, the defender closes him down and is going for the block, and if he doesn't make that little touch to set it up on his foot, he doesn't get like around the defender, because the defender's like is a little late getting there, and Milo, if he hits it first time, has an opening. But the defender gets there so that since he doesn't hit it first time, he has to do something. And that little ball roll is so filthy. And the defender cannot get over now fast enough. And then he just, laces through it, but also curls it.
Yeah.
Man.
It's
so
reminiscent of another left-footed player that plays on that field occasionally.
It was a Messi bend. It was a Messi type bend. That is similar to the way Messi bends the ball on that field. And Messi wishes he could do it like Milo.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm sure he
wishes he could get off the bench.
Who, Milo?
Messi.
Oh, never heard of him. I think that it was really nice to then see how we reacted after that goal. So what minute was that goal in? Do you guys remember?
56.
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter, I don't know how many minutes, if it's 5 or 10, I'm not sure. We make a sub and we go to two.
It's about 10 minutes after.
We go to two holding midfielders. So we take out, is it Minjay?
Minjay is the sub at 68, and we put on Stevie.
So Stevie comes in for Minjay. Alex goes out wide.
No, not really.
Alex does go. He
eventually.
Alex immediately runs out wide. And then he kind of goes everywhere for a little while. But he immediately goes out wide to be the winger. I'm telling you, when he runs in, he goes out. Like, you watch them run the opposite directions. I'm not telling you he stayed out there. We already argued about this. But Matthew's point is, like, nobody played one of the wing spots for like 10 minutes, which is fine. But ostensibly, Alex is the winger on one side. And Stevie's sitting in next to...
This is the thing Breezy does, where he conflates two moments and packages them together.
It's not true. If only we had Apple TV to rewatch the whole thing.
Alex goes out and plays the right wing position at the second substitution moment at 73 minutes. When Mango comes out off the field, Amzian goes in, Amzi goes to the left-hand side, Alex comes to the right-hand side. But that doesn't happen for the first 5 minutes in there.
Telling you, I watched him run out because I pointed out to everyone in the bar that there goes Alex. He's going out to the wing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that happened at minute 73.
And not 68?
Yeah, because 68 was the interesting one where Mango's still on the right-hand side. Alex and Callum are still like doing their thing. And because Stevie is the sub for Minjay, Stevie does this thing where it's like the responsibilities when you play a bit of a diamond in midfield. And he would become the left center midfielder who's responsible for width sometimes if the outside back's not there, but is also responsible for tucking in and playing in the middle of the field. And so for that 5 minute stretch there, it looked to me like Stevie was tucked in, kind of alongside Nick, like you said, but also was responsible for, like, when the ball rotated, he had to go out and play that left hand space. And like Keegan was like heading out there a little bit too, but like it was an interesting rotation, and I'd be very curious to learn. Was that just like
was that on purpose?
We're gonna make another set of subs in 5 minutes here. Just like do this thing for a second. I'll be really curious about that because like we know that Amzi did not play against Tennessee Tempo. He was on the bench, but he didn't start. Good chance he was minutes limited in some way. So like it's not terribly surprising that they wanted to make one change but needed to wait a little bit longer. You know, Logan Brown has had some little issues during preseason. He missed the Atlanta game. I think he missed the UNC game. So like, you know, he comes out at 73, 74 as well. It's possible that he was having a little something we don't know. But when you have 5 subs and you have 3 moments, you already made one. Your minutes limited on another guy, potentially. Like, you know, you really want to make 2 subs somewhere in there together. And I wonder if we just tried to muddle through it. And Steve is a great player to help like kill a game, muddle through because he's so athletic. So then we get to 73, 74. We make the changes for Amzi for Mangarov and Ethan Dudley for Logan Brown. And that's when it's like very settled. You know, Amzi's left, Alex is right. They move around a bunch. Keegan's still up top, and you've got Callum and Callum in front of Stevie and Nick in midfield. And we stay that way through the 86th minute, where Alex comes off and Robert Screen goes on to help finish killing the game off.
I would argue that's when the chaos started. Robert Screen was just running around absolutely everywhere. It's honestly a really fun thing to see because like we're having to totally readjust our expectations of what Robert Screen Screen's job is.
What was his position? Where was he playing?
He's a midfielder.
I think he was literally a sweeper, but instead of being on the back, he was just running around the front line. He was just running around absolutely everywhere, breaking up play.
By the way, if you have like in our 4-3-3 where you have a striker and one of your center midfielders, you know, in that first line, like their job is to like pick up on and put pressure on based on like how we're pressing or how we're putting pressure on.
Yeah, we press in a 4-2-4.
You want a super fresh player in one of those positions, and whose job is to run and break up play.
I'm not criticizing.
I'm not criticizing either.
Because how many moments did you see where whether it was Keegan, who has just lungs for days apparently, whether it was Keegan or whether it was Robert, sped up Miami, like forced the ball back, sped up Miami, and they had multiple clearances where they're trying to like recycle play and it goes out of bounds for a throw in for us.
Yeah.
That helped us kill that game off.
It was great.
In fact, like really all of those subs, like I think really changed. I mean, you can look at the momentum and see here, but like we mostly killed the game off after those subs, just breaking things up and not allowing them to get that rhythm that they did have in the first half. Whether Miami did a lot with it, maybe not.
Yeah,
but
they still had possession, but they didn't do much with it in the second half. I mean, actually, the numbers look worse in the second half than the first half
for us.
I mean, they had more possession in the second half. A lot of that could be game state.
Yeah.
But,
we're up,
after the second goal. But
and you can clearly see like a difference between this year's team and the past couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're not going out there like putting direct pressure on. Like you can have the ball. Like your center backs can have the ball.
Right.
At least in this particular game. And then once you decide to do something with it, or once we decide to help speed you up to do something about it, that's when we start like playing and reacting from there. Which is an interesting development. Like that's interesting tactical evolution.
Yeah, neither Jim or I are criticizing Robert Screen.
No, that was not criticism. It's just like he's like Santa Claus.
He was everywhere.
He was everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And then Stevie, having 2 guys in Stevie and Nick next to each other, I felt just provided a lot of solidity. They didn't always challenge. A lot of times they just shepherded, but they made it so like that zone 14 and those areas, they no longer had the ball in there for the most part. And every time they would try to get in there, like somebody would kick the ball away. So the other thing that's really different is if you remember the last few years under Rod, 3 seasons under Rod, the first 5 or 10 games of the season, every time you'd be like, oh God, kick it out, they would try to we would try to recycle and hold control. Like that was a part of the rod cess.
Yes.
And eventually we would get better and better at it. And it was an effective tactic. You saw that in very small situations tonight when it made sense, somebody tried to keep the ball. But if we needed to kick it out, we just kicked it out. If we needed to kick it upfield, we just kicked it upfield. And while they're both valid ways to play. The rod ball is a valid way to play. Sure. It's just so different to watch a team it's 3 seasons in a row I've been accustomed to watching us play a certain way and be like, oh no, like it's going to be whatever.
I know this is one game. It's one game.
True.
But the constant frustration I had last couple years is how massively we were outshot. And I mean, it was the opposing team had, and we had more possession, but the other team would outshoot us 2-1, 3-1. It wouldn't be unusual.
Yeah.
And just one game, we had half the possession they did, but we're only outshot by one shot, and we had more shots on net. And so I know that's one stat or two stats with possession, but it's just a huge difference that we created as many shots as we would have last year with half the possession. And that's the sense of urgency, I think, that I missed out of the last couple of years' teams. Like we wouldn't have, I don't know that we take that shot that we actually score the winner on if we take that shot last year. Because it's outside the box. That's, oh my gosh, do we shoot the ball outside the box now? And if you just focus on XG and those types of things.
Soccer is played on spreadsheets.
Yeah, no.
But also, soccer is played on vibes.
Yes.
And the dial on spreadsheets to vibes has been turned a little bit closer to vibes than it has been in previous years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we was so obvious, and I've seen this and
that's really important.
In the other club team that I follow, where you want to create, if a shot's available outside the box, but you can make 2 more passes and you get a tap in, you make those 2 passes for the tap in. You don't take the shot outside the box, and that's fine when you get those tap ins, but when you don't create. It just turns into possession without a purpose. And again, one game, 90 minutes. The fact that we created more with half the possession against a team that is talented is, I think, if you're going to ask me for a positive, that's probably my positive. The win's great, but how we played and the outcome we got in a completely different style. I think is encouraging for me.
I agree.
Spreadsheets make a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer being played on spreadsheets makes for a good team. Vibes and the power of friendship win you championships.
The power of friendship.
Yeah, it's the friends you make along the way that make it all worthwhile.
And hopefully both together make for a I
need a
history.
I need a spreadsheet. I need a needle, a spreadsheet vibe needle.
Yeah,
and I'll need that. I'll need that kind of from you. I need like during the game. You need to start indicating where the needle starts. With.
I think the needle was pegged like 75% vibes this game. If I had to.
I mean, like not really.
Screen was vibing out there.
Dude, Omzi was vibing. Omzi took on like 17 guys. He like shouldered one kid over. He it was
isn't that
awesome.
Him? I mean, that's him.
Yeah,
seems to be him.
Yes.
Seems to be him.
Let's talk about something. Awesome. Let's talk about something as we wrap up this game that I think we've seen a little bit in preseason, not always like come off and result in a goal, but I think something that was very clear. Second half, we've got a 2-1 lead. Miami's looking to be high up the field to try to attack. We saw several instances of playing in behind, whether that was over the top or through ball, kind of splitting defenders, trying to get Keegan in behind and one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And actually, we saw this once with Callum as well, where there was a big ball, I think from Eldon, but I don't remember exactly who. A big ball over the top as kind of the defense was coming forward. Callum ran in behind and couldn't quite control it and goes out for a goal kick. But if he controls that and has a dribble towards goal, he's taking a shot one-on-one. And, you see a couple of those moments. Keegan has that one chance kind of at the corner of the 6 that I'm not sure gets recorded as a shot in Opta. But I think we clearly recorded it on our XG model. Just right at the corner there. If he puts that away, it's 3-1. There's another one where Callum is able to release him, getting into space, release him out, and Keegan tries to, kind of cut inside a little bit, and the chance ends up going away. Those are moments, especially with the lead, those are moments that can help us kill games off in a way that we never killed games off last year, right? If we can do that, I guess Miami, the 6-2, we kind of did. But those are the kinds of things teams are going to play, and honestly, teams are going to play against us because this league is the way it is. If they're down 2-1 or up 2-1, they're going to get the ball high. They're going to apply pressure. They're going to try to go, play and score and build out of the back. Those moments are tailor-made for us. And based on the type of group that we have, guys that like to run in behind, athletic strikers in Keegan and Peter Plowman, guys that are trying to get, kind of corner of the box, get vertical, like the vertical passing ability of Callum, the driving ability of Alex.
I mean, even guys like Minjay who like to get vertical.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel Mangroff is a great example of that. Someone who as playing as a winger was always looking to get vertical and into those kind of spaces.
And we have two guys too that in that same thing you're talking about play riskier passes, play higher reward passes. So far, at least in Mangrove and Callum,
yeah,
in a way that the Rod system just didn't ask you or allow you to do unless you were in really particular areas. And right now we are. And it's going to be live by the sword, die by the sword, because at some point we're going to see one of those really risky passes get played. It's not going to come off, and they're going to break, and they're going to be 4-on-1. I mean, it actually did happen last night on a different type of play where they ended up 4-on-1, and thank goodness they messed it up. But we have a very different way with the athleticism, like you were saying, and getting out on the break to kind of fight the other team in a way we just didn't do last year, both because of personnel and because of game style.
Yeah. So, and while it didn't result in a goal against Miami, it's the kind of thing that I think it will result in goals this coming season.
Well, it did result in one, the first goal.
Different scenario for me. That's yes, but not what I'm talking about.
It's still them trying to play out of the back.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think they're related. They're going to try to play out of the back, no matter what. And for the most part, most of these teams are.
I mean, mostly not necessarily us turning them over and then going, although that did happen and will continue to happen, I believe. But more they're going to play a higher line in general. That's the style that these teams are playing. That's the style, especially that Miami is playing at the first team level. This is a thing where they're going to be high, and when we turn them over. That turnover was in their own half of the field. The one where Callum slips Keegan. That originates from our defensive half. Callum probably takes 20, 30 yards on the dribble before he even delivers the pass. So, and we saw through Peter's highlights, at Mars Hill, we saw a lot of those types of moments where a player is playing him in behind. He's running off back shoulders, and he's sometimes flaring a little bit wide to get a little bit more space for that delivery. So
yeah, he did that. He did that several times against
Tempo. Yeah,
Tempo
in his 10-minute cameo.
Yeah.
You saw that a bunch of times.
Yes, you did.
So I think that's something, even though it didn't result in a goal, I think we're going to see a lot more of in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Are we more athletic up top than
yes.
than we've ever been?
Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember. I mean, we've had some speed out wide before, like in the early first season of Nisa or the whatever the half season was with what's his name? He was on the right.
Brett Jones?
No.
Joel Costa.
Well, no. But this is Nisa. Oh, whatever. We've had. I can't remember his name right now. Well, I can see his face, but we've had speed out wide before, but I don't remember. I mean, I guess I was talking to my younger son about just about Keegan. I don't remember us having, a guy with that size and that athleticism, in the front line. I can't remember.
I mean, it's you only saw it in one game. It's probably Santiago Agudelo is the closest comparison you can make there.
Or
I forgot about Sandy.
Max Wilshere a little bit.
Max Wilshere had that thing in a certain way, but like.
But I don't remember him being as big. Well, he
was 6'2", but he wasn't necessarily back to goal.
Right. Okay.
Whereas like Keegan will play back to goal. He wants to turn you, but like he'll play back to goal. You'll see Peter as he gets going. Like, he'll put his back to goal. He'll do those kinds of things.
Again, like you said, it's one game, but his movement just seems different than what we've had in the past.
I do think we're more athletic. I love Mix is just snoring up a storm over here. I've tried to wake him up a couple times enough, and he's just like not interested. I do think we're more athletic overall, for sure.
Yeah.
I think
Seems
you look
like
at
it to me.
You look at like Jalen, obviously, who was here last year, but like he's pretty athletic. Minjay here last year, pretty athletic. Amzi's different kind of athletic. He's not just fast, but like he can move. And if you watch him, his highlights, if you watch him in some of the games this preseason, once he gets out on the break, like it's going to be tougher to catch him than it is a lot of guys. Jesus is who he is. He's not super athletic. And then Keegan and Peter are both. Medi was reasonably athletic, I would argue. Keegan and Peter,
but that wasn't his game. I mean, it wasn't his game though.
They're like a half step more, especially on the speed front than Medi was. And like you put all of those things together, and I think we are. I mean, like Taylor was like could move, but like that wasn't his game. If you look in the past, like Brett Jones, maybe our most like quote unquote athletic guy, like he definitely did it a bit, but he was the one guy, and he had Marcus up top. So like it wasn't. If it's Keegan, that's not Marcus's game, right? If it's Keegan and Brett Jones, it's a different thing because you have two guys that can get out and run. But instead, it was Marcus and Brett Jones. So you'd have Marcus, a lot of times playing the ball, and then Alex and Brett Jones running. So we haven't had this balance, this type of, I don't think, overall speed and athleticism. And if you look in the midfield, we'll see what happens. But like Alex is the guy there. But then you look at a guy like Stevie, who maybe going forward isn't your speed, but in defensive covering, like we haven't had, I don't maybe ever a guy that can cover the defensive ground that he can. So yeah, and then Callum is like just kind of in the middle there. And then Will Roberts, I guess if you want to go way back for some speed. Mm-hmm. But we really haven't had.
If we're going to talk about speed and we don't, we're talking about the past and we don't talk about Alan Webb.
Oh yeah, Alan Webb. Yeah, that's fair. Great point. But we have,
by the way, still playing in Australia.
Hell yeah, good for Alan Webb. Joao Costa is still playing on Sundays. You guys are laughing. He's still good. He's still really good. That. The thing is, we haven't had we're talking about one player one season, one player another season, one player another season, and then this season we have just more total of those guys. I think, especially that striker position.
The player profile has changed.
Mm-hmm. Personnel is policy, as you always say. And I think you can see the personnel that we've put in this year. There is definitely, well, I shouldn't say definitely, from my eyes, there is definitely a choice to be a little, not even a little more, to be more athletic, to have more speed, to have more ability to get out on the break. You look at the type of player from the highlights that Peter is, like you talked about, you look at what we saw Keegan in the preseason, we're just going to get out on the break more.
Okay. Let's wrap up this game by talking about another place that you can read about CFC. There is a new independent website out there called the Southeast Soccer Report.
They had a lovely, and I didn't read till after the game. They had a lovely preview.
They are covering literally all Southeast soccer in this country. From MLS all the way down to the lowest of amateur levels.
They appear to be covering. They appear to be covering a little bit of NISA too, which is kind of wild.
I think they will cover NISA if there's a NISA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
But like
this might be good protagonist.
Even touching the
No
amateur
comment.
levels, and whatnot, and there is out there currently like a season preview for CFC. There was a game preview for Friday night's game. There was a game recap. All of that was written by a guy named Philip Farrell. So shout out, keep up the good work. I read all three, like very well done. So we encourage you if we want you to obviously continue listening to podcasts like this one, but
No,
like,
pause it right now.
If reading is also your thing, like we want to make sure that we support and incentivize reading about CFC. Because people are taking the time to do that.
Incentivize writing.
Yes.
And that's really important.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. All jokes aside, shout out to those guys. That's
That's a labor of love.
Exactly, as we know well. I only read the game recap, but it was the game preview rather of this game, but it was very, very good. I liked it a lot, and if that is indicative of the quality of everything else, which you're saying it is, like it is well worth reading, guys. Well worth it.
Yeah. So.
And he's local, right?
I think so.
And do we know if he's been to a match before?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know, but here's an invite. If somehow he hears this, like, we will. If you need a ticket, we'll find you one. In fact, a friend of ours just moved, and I have his season ticket that we can use.
I normally
beers
have
are on
two.
me.
I normally have two extras. So
He's got extras. Like we'll make sure you get to a game if you'd like to. If you're not already coming, and if you're already coming, hell yeah.
All right. That being said, I think the last thing we do on this podcast today is kind of shift gears off of the men for a second. The women's team has announced 6 players thus far for the summer WPSL season.
Let's go.
We are anticipating a schedule dropping this month. This is March, right? Yeah, this is March.
Yep.
So we're anticipating dropping a schedule this month. And a little birdie has told me that we have a bunch more players that have already been signed. They're just rolling them out, kind of a couple a week, whatever it is.
Okay.
To keep the announcements rolling, and to keep people remembering that the women's team season is coming. It'll start in May, like it usually does. So let's go over really quickly. We'll do a real season preview.
Sure.
Probably in 2 months.
Yeah.
Once we have a better idea of like who's on the team.
And we'll do one we're hoping to do one, as we mentioned last podcast, for the men's team as well, probably after the Open Cup, when we think our roster's more set.
Oh yeah, and we've got a good mailbag question coming up. But let's do this first. So women's team, Kennedy Ball.
Everybody gets an applause.
That's a local player. I think she went to GPS. She's now at the University of Arkansas. She's a midfielder.
Back in the day, we used to get a lot of, because that University of Arkansas pipeline is pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
we had Maddie Ricketts, who went out there.
We had a couple more.
Yeah, probably. I don't.
It's been since like 2014, 2015, 2016. So like I've slept since then.
Buddy, calm down. We didn't have any SEC players back then.
No, we were. That was the ones we had were those ones.
we had a player we had LSU, right?
Yeah, back in 2018.
Like 2018 was the year where we had a lot.
2018, we had a ton of SEC players.
Yeah.
Then that was also the only year we were really, really good.
Jordan Crockett, a defender. Reese McDermott, you got to stop doing that. Reese McDermott.
Well, I already started. Now I can't stop.
No, you can't do that.
Everybody has to get one.
Kaylee Smith, the midfielder. Kylie Hall, a goalkeeper. No. Yeah. And then returning player, Abby Merrick from UTC.
Let's go.
So that's the first 6. I hope there's 2 more this week. And we'll continue to update y'all as that happens. And we'll do a real season preview once we have a little bit larger of a group.
Something folks might remember too from our Sebastian interview is that he put together a really, 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 and I know he said he had help and whatever else, but they're really, really good. UWS, I think. Was that the league he was in?
They were in W League.
WPSL, excuse me.
They were in W League.
Anyway, he's put together a couple really, really good women's programs. Teams in a larger women's program. So I'm really excited. That was in his prior role. I'm really excited to see what he builds now. It's not just him, obviously, but like I think his pedigree makes me. For the first time in a while, I've complained on this podcast again about how we need to be I want to be competing for playoffs and those type of things. And I think for the first time, I'm optimistic that that's a real, not only possibility, but maybe a likelihood that we'll be at least much more competitive. Because what we saw last year, I think, is that like we took a nice step forward. The Tommy Salsa and Juan regime started, and we took a nice step forward from the year before, but the league took 2 steps forward. So we were just an even further step behind, which was really like a bummer. And I think this year we've got a better infrastructure, top down, and a pedigree of building winning programs. So I'm fucking stoked for the women's team.
Okay, let's move on to a mailbag, and I'm going to give this to you so you can read.
All right.
There's one short mailbag question, and then there's one larger mailbag question.
So I'll give you the first piece, Matthew, and I want yours. And then Jim, I don't know if you've seen this, so this will be interesting to see your comments on this. But it's awfully quiet on the signing front. This is from Sean. As we have begun the season, will we make more actual signings, or will they just be academy guys that kind of come and fill out the roster? That's the first question.
So I know nothing about academy. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm saying I don't know anything about the academy side. I do know that, and I don't know about the regular season portion. I do know in preseason we have had some kind of guest players. Like there have been some trialists throughout, right? But there have also been some guest players. Some guys from Dalton State specifically I've seen, and some other like local players to help fill out numbers, things like that. On the signings front, this podcast has been projecting 2 more signings at some point in time. We pretty clearly need a deputy for Milo at left back. We probably need another center back. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the baseline where we have been operating this podcast. That's not necessarily the club, right? I think what is going on, because we've had trialists pretty continually in throughout the preseason, is that they're still looking. And they don't appear to be signing someone just to sign someone, but they're looking for the right fit. That could be culturally, that could be on the field, that could be a lot of things.
I mean, certainly both.
Yeah, it's certainly all of the things, all of the criteria that go into making decisions to sign a player. So, like, I don't expect that to stop. I just expect that they haven't found the right player yet, or the right players yet. But I still think there'll be a couple of additions. I will note that the transfer window for a foreign player whose ITC is held in a foreign country to come to the United States, and that includes, by the way, like if you're a foreign player or if you're an American playing in a foreign country, that window, that transfer window expires on April 23rd and doesn't reopen again until like July 17. So there is a window of time here for an ITC to move. I think we're on our own schedule, which is that like we're going to eventually probably need another player or two. So like I would expect some movement this month. I don't really know anything. But like that's the short answer to that question. That wasn't short.
What he said.
My man.
I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, I think it was pretty comprehensive. I agree with that. So, Sean, I'm going to paraphrase your next question here because it is long.
TLDR.
Hard. Well, yeah. Well, and there's nothing wrong with how he's put it. I just want to make sure I like do it in a succinct way. So, Chattanooga and Chattanooga FC have always been an innovative club and city. We have always been a city and a club of doing things first and becoming known for it. So we've discussed, he said, you guys have discussed a little bit more. That was just part of his thing. So you guys discussed a little bit more before, but other teams in Next Pro have been having their talented players move up in their system because they have multiple teams. They have a first team and a second team. He wants to know, how is the club possibly preparing for this? And then how do we prepare for this, assuming they are, or maybe if they aren't, they should be, prepare for a culture of selling players to make the club financially viable for the foreseeable future and attract the best talent possible. He said we'd kind of have to break the mold to do this, as not many teams across the first and second and third divisions in this country get sold out of the country or in the country. It's just not super common. But Tormenta, as an example, he says sold a player to Burton Albion, and he wonders if we could implement something next year or in the future to be a selling club. And he mentions Medi as an example. Medi went to Omaha. These are his words. Medi went to Omaha. It's kind of a mutual parting of ways, and I'll provide a little bit of context on that in a second that I know. But, why weren't we selling him to Omaha was his point. Medi's a good player. And so are we going to put together a future, or do we think we're going to put together, or we should put together a future where CFC is a selling club to sell players on? So I'll mention a little Medi piece, then I'll let you guys kind of take that question. So basically, in the Medi situation, what I have learned is that at the end of the season, Medi and the team both agreed that if both of them found a suitable, like we have a suitable replacement and you have a suitable place you want to go and everybody's happy, we'll mutually part ways. If everybody isn't happy, then we won't mutually part ways. But so it was very much a mutual parting of ways from both of those. Like they were both open to coming back and both open to going. And so it was not like Omaha came in and offered a bunch of money for Medi, or like Medi was desperate to leave or we were desperate to get rid of him. Nothing like, it was just a mutual like, hey, I think I'm open to moving on. I think we're open to replacing you. How could this work out? Can we find things that are as a win-win for everybody? And they mutually agreed to do that, and they did that. That is often not how things go. A mutual parting of ways often is not it's a see you later, get out of our house kind of thing, or I really want to leave and I don't want to be here type of thing in sports. But for this case, it really was a mutual, like just a win-win for both sides going to Union Omaha I think that's just a little bit different than some of those situations. But yeah, I'll throw to you guys on the like becoming a selling club. Like, what do you guys think of that? What are your thoughts on? Are we going to become that? Do we need to become that? Yeah, floor is yours. I'll let Jim go first instead of Matthew, because Matthew I know is going to talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not going to pretend to know a whole lot about the comings and goings or the how really the system should work or is working in the lower divisions of the U.S. One thing is challenging is that if you have a bunch of 1-year deals, it's hard to sell players. I mean, you have the thing that allows you to sell them is that there is a contract there. There is some leverage, so if you've got, first of all, I don't even think it's hard to sell on a 2-year contract. So I think you've got to be at 3 years so that a player plays, then they go into the year before their contract is in, and that's when you sell them. You sell them with a year left. We don't do that a lot. Or we
don't have a lot of 3-year deals.
No, I don't. Have we had any? Have we had any 3-year?
Two. Damien and now Darwin.
Okay.
And those are 2+1s.
Yeah. So the first thing is there's not an opportunity to sell a lot of players because they planned and they're out of contract. And so you need multiple year deals in order to be able to really sell players.
And that's riskier from a club point of view.
Yeah. And I think right now it's maybe it's I don't know how to say this. Is it that the clubs just hold the? I mean, in a world where players have more leverage, they can get longer contracts. Here, I don't think the players have that ability really to demand that. Clubs don't really need to do it. And
also I agree with that. And also, if you were 23, or if you're 19 in the United States and you play soccer, there's not a lot of transfer fee money out there for you. Yeah. So being locked down for 3 years to a club is not in your best interest. You want to sign 1 year or 1 year with a club option that you like. Uh-huh. Those are the kind of deals you want to sign because you want to have the flexibility to move, because MLS isn't paying into USL Championship, $50,000, $100,000 transfer fees very often. And so I'm using USL Championship as an example because that's 2 to 1, and MLS is where the money is, much more so, even more magnified on our level, which is Division 3 into Division 2. Like, you just don't see large sums of money. So I think your point about contracts is exactly right. And I agree, the clubs hold more power there, but even if you take away the power dynamic, the clubs don't want to be locked into players,
No,
and
no,
the players
that's
don't
what
want
I
to be
mean
locked
by
down
the
either.
power.
Neither one wants to be locked in because there's not the money out there to get out of that or to move up. So players want to be able to get out of their contract and then sign with a USL Championship team, with an MLS team, go abroad without having that transfer fee hung around their neck.
You are just now seeing championship teams being more willing to put players on 2+1s, and I'm sure you can find an example of a 3-year deal somewhere. You're just now seeing that, and that's largely based on a group of players that are never making it to MLS. That MLS is never coming in on, but they're extremely good players, like great championship players that love the city they're playing in, love the team they're playing for, and that team loves them. And so they're willing to go ahead and lock a player down because these are more sure commodities at that point. We are just now seeing that happen the last couple of years. We are also now seeing at the championship level again, there is a transfer market out there. It is by no means robust, and the money is mostly nothing. Yeah. But we are seeing if there's a coaching change, a team like a Tampa Bay Rowdies is willing to go find a player that's playing, somewhere else in the league and pay 10 grand or even maybe 20 grand for that player. They've got the budget to do that. Their playing budget's probably $1.7 million. 20 grand is pretty much nothing in the grand scheme of things. What we're not seeing is unless you have an Elijah Winder, who LA Galaxy bought off of Louisville, a 21-year-old from the Louisville Academy, brother of Josh Winder, who was bought by Benfica from Louisville. Unless you have that kind of player, MLS isn't buying you, right? So the Winder brothers making reported $1.4 million for Louisville, is so much the outlier that, the transfer market just isn't there. There has not been a cash transfer market basically at all, even at the MLS level, except for money going overseas, because MLS teams transferring players from one another would use the allocation money system. God. That is just now, the ability for that has just now changed. The cash, stop it. The cash, the cash transfer market is new to MLS this winter offseason. And you've already seen moves take place with actual cold hard cash. Lucho Acosta to Dallas from Cincinnati. The cascading effect of Evander from Portland to Cincinnati for $12 million, which allowed Portland then bring a player in from overseas. Dejan Joveljic moved from LA Galaxy to Sporting Kansas City for $4 million. All of those were straight cash, homie. Straight cash. And so
which has never been an option before, which is insane.
It's never been an option before. So now you will see, I think, a little bit more cash spent around the MLS level. It's mostly going to be for the big time players that need to move, though, that you can't really move with allocation money because there just isn't enough allocation money. What the system really needs for a domestic cash market is for the acquisition cost of a player to be removed from the salary cap at the MLS level. That's what it really needs. That will allow money to flow downstream. Now, at the minimum, it should be that the cash transfer, the acquisition fee should not count against the cap if it comes from within the MLS system, in my belief. If you want to differentiate MLS Next Pro for independent teams versus another system that's out there for however long, that's how you do it. Because then you can incentivize money moving downstream. You can incentivize clubs like CFC to develop players, to spend money on an academy, to develop players, to try to sell them on. to Sean's question about Tormenta specifically, Tormenta makes no fucking money on their soccer team. Nobody goes to those games. They have no sponsorship. They're in Statesboro. Nobody fucking goes to those games. They don't make any money. They make their money on their youth academy though.
Yep.
They've got one of the largest youth academies out there. Thousands and thousands of families, whatever it is, like paying money to play in the Tormenta Youth Academy. That's how they survive as a club.
And they also run a pretty good pro team as far as scouting and signing. And they signed 3 CFC players. So.
And they're also willing,
smart.
And they run like their USL League 2 team. Like they're willing to promote and try to promote academy players up, whether they're at college or whatever it is. Like they try to vertically do that. Akoto is a good example, but that's an English guy. That's an English guy going back home, where it's worth it. Because there's no now with Brexit there are new rules on registration of foreign players into England, especially the lower divisions of England. So it is worth it if Burton or whoever it was, Burton Hove Albion, it's worth it to them to pay a little bit of money that they would ordinarily wouldn't pay for an English player that they don't have to count against their foreign cap because they're in League One or whatever the hell they're in over there. So like that's kind of a unique circumstance. It's certainly not the norm. We are a long way from like a true transfer market in this country. We're a long way away from that, which is good and positive because we as CFC need that time. You just saw the announcement of adding a U15, U13, whatever it is, team. Originally, we were going to have 2 teams in MLS Next, like the elite youth tier.
13, 14, 15, right?
Sure, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think that
it was
right.
going
for
to be
the boys. I think it's 13, 14, 15.
It was going to be like just 2 teams to start out. We've increased that now to 3.
Yeah.
And the further we can get in developing the academy, especially the elite level of the academy, the further along we can get, the better off we're going to be in terms of producing players that may play for CFC, the first team, one day, may just go to college, may stop playing soccer entirely, but the higher the level will raise overall, the higher level of a player that Chattanooga, the city, will produce. And you have to start somewhere. And there's another equation to that, which is figuring out long-term training facilities, fields, etc., which they're working on. They're constantly looking for field space. They're constantly looking for turf options in the event of rain.
Well, and Sebastian talked about too the additional A licenses they have,
the additional coaching licenses.
They're really like the academy's being built out now.
And like yes, the academy has existed for 12, 14 years, whatever it is now, but to really go to the level that we need to, the academy is in essence a year, 2 years old. To try to produce elite players, to try to produce players that have resale value, that are legitimate commodities. And that's going to be a balance that we have to remember to take going forward, is that yes, players are commodities, but they're also still people. And and often they're kids. And and we have to remember that as we do this thing. Otherwise, we're going to lose. I'm not saying we're going down this road, but the potential to lose the magic of what makes CFC, what makes Chattanooga itself special, is there when you start thinking about players as commodities.
Totally. So to sum it up, you think that yes, we do need to go down that road, but it's just far in the future. Everyone
needs to go down that road. Everyone needs to go down that road. And it's been in my end of season, my New Year's resolutions. I want us to participate in the transfer market. We participated twice, buying Jude and
Callum,
and Callum, the acquisition of Callum. So can we now? And whether it's obviously Jude was a parting of ways. Is there another opportunity? There's still a foreign spot left with this team. Do we sell that foreign spot? Do we pocket that spot? Do we bring in a foreign player as one of the last couple players on the roster? Do we wait until the summer for some sort of, maybe it's an acquisition, maybe it's a free agent signing, but do we try to find an upside play and make a bet. There's a lot of possibilities out there. But one of the things that's going to be really important for teams to want to buy from us is they have to trust us. And this is our second year in MLS Next Pro. And it's really great that there's 16 years before that or whatever it is.
I thought you were saying for MLS Next Pro. For us, yes.
Yeah. It's really great that we have that history, and that's an important part of our journey as a club and as a fan base and a community. But as far as like the soccer ecosystem, like the business of soccer goes, we're essentially a second-year club. The academy is in its second year, right? We don't even have the elite level yet. That starts, in August or whatever. And we are in our second year of MLS Next Pro. Like, the NISA years almost don't matter. The amateur years almost don't matter as far as like the business, soccer business, grown-up shit. So it's going to take time for us to really get there. And that's okay. We have some time, but we just have to be putting in the work now, building out the academy, looking to improve facilities and structure. Like, it's just like classroom stuff, right? Children in a classroom need to be in a stable environment with no distractions. Like, that helps them learn best. It's the same with soccer players. Like, if you're constantly on 7 different fields, your environment's changing. Like, you're not, like, it's not as good for development as being in the same place every day, putting the work in with fewer distractions.
Well, I would say it's the same as what a club needs. I mean, we haven't had the ability to even know if we were playing the following weekend for
several years.
For several years.
For the NISA, yeah.
So,
yeah.
The club has to have that sense of security and
for the first time, moving to MLS Next Pro for the first time, like that is the security. Like, we have.
Well, unless you're playing in Fort Lauderdale.
No, but like, we know that the league isn't going away. Like, we didn't have that security until we moved.
True. Yeah, that's true. I'm just mad at Fort Lauderdale for moving the game by a day.
Yeah, well, that's whatever.
Yeah, so to sum all that up, I agree. And Jim, if you want to add anything, you're welcome to. But I think in the medium term, we absolutely do need to become a selling club. Every team in the world is some version of a selling club, except for like 6 clubs in the world.
Correct.
So like,
yeah.
And transfer fees, as they become more relevant and more possible, have to become a part of our business model. I also agree with Matthew that right now, unfortunately, the reality is if you take a bunch of swings on guys trying to make, money, you're not going to make much money. It's very much gambling because the transfer fees are not out there right now for us. They could be and they will be in the future. And like, we need to try to win and also like develop young players for winning and for helping them step up. And then if we can make some money in those periods, great. And then as time goes on and the opportunities to make money hopefully develop through unfortunately MLS dominates all of American soccer. So as MLS orients itself, it seems, to paying some more transfer fees, and those become bigger options for us. Yes, we should focus a little bit more on that, but not at the detriment of winning and not at the detriment of, like, if you pay $50,000 for 5 different players, you need one of them to come out $50 per, $50,000 per, and then you need to come out with at least 250 on one of them to pay it off, as an example. In world soccer, those are tiny transfer fees. In American soccer, those are very
huge.
Those are huge transfer fees. Yeah. So like, for us to participate in the global market right now and on big bets that make us money, quote unquote, is just rare. We're going to make little chunks of, like, if you sell a player for $25,000 in the American soccer market, that's a lot of money. Most guys are making more than that in salary a year. So what are you adding to your bottom line by adding $25,000 to your bottom line? You're adding something. Don't get me wrong. It is something, and we need to be able to participate at some point. But like, it's just less of a revenue generator than you think it is. And we need a history, as Matt pointed out, of moving guys on. So we need an Omzion or a Darwin or somebody this year, as an example, to explode and move on to an MLS team and get a real MLS deal. That would help our case there. If Medi goes at Union Omaha and scores 15 goals in League One, every League One team is going to look at us a little differently when looking for players, and maybe we'll start to get some offers, some of those smaller offers. But we have to have a history of that, in addition to there having to be a larger global market.
But there are 3 teams.
That only matters if they're multi-year deals. I mean,
Exactly. And why would we put guys on multi-year deals until the money's there?
Yeah.
But we have some
So
guys.
it's a chicken and egg. I mean, there's
You can sell guys if you can sell guys for those small amounts when you have an option year on them. Like
sure. And sure.
it's just the amounts, the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 transfer fees are just not going to substantially change the bottom line of a club that's got a several $1 million budget overall. Mm-hmm. But like, are they helpful? Yes. Should we be excited about it when the first one happens and we make 40 grand or whatever?
It's more of a novelty.
It's more of a novelty
than anything else.
But as time goes on, we do need to continue to build a pipeline of young players, whether they're at the academy or young guys that play here that can, so that when it becomes a real option, we have the option to sell those guys on. And in the meantime, let's have the type of players that other teams want to buy so that we can win.
Two things. One, there are 3 lower division teams in the country that are trusted by the global soccer market to buy players from. Louisville. Charleston, Orange County. That's it. Louisville's 10 years old now. They've been a professional team for 10 years. That academy is starting to pay dividends, and it's literally in one family. Charleston has been around for forever, like 30 years now. They've been a professional team for an extremely long period of time, and they have both a club culture and now like a technical staff in Pyramid that are trusted to find players, to make them good, to sell them on. You've seen that now with Fidel Barajas. You've seen that with Nick Marikanic. You saw it with maybe those are the only 2 so far. But they've brought in now other players, like other youth players specifically, that are teams are trusting because they know they're going to get on the field in first team matches sooner. And they've seen that these players, like, an offer comes in from RSL for Fidel Barajas. Yep, no problem. You're gone. Like, not a crazy fee, so it's good for the MLS club. A nice sell-on percentage, so that when RSL flips you for $4 million to Chivas right afterwards, now you've got a bigger percentage coming back to you.
And by the way, those
Good for
percentages...
the player. By the way, that player's back at DC United on loan now.
I was going to say, those percentages didn't exist a few years ago. They weren't happening.
Right.
And so like the market's just changing the way things
I think there's the idea that we're probably 2, 3, maybe more than that years away from being what somebody might call a selling club, but so is everybody else.
We're 5 or 6 years away. Legitimately,
the most advanced clubs in this market in the U.S., at least the lower leagues, have been doing this with money about 2 years, 3 years.
Exactly.
I mean, you could go a little bit further for Orange County, which intentionally developed relationships overseas with Rangers, Feyenoord, maybe some others, and were willing to get guys out the door quickly for less money so that they could set up a Kobe Henry to somewhere in France. They could set up a Milan Ilioski into Holland. Like for that one was some real money. But like they've done a lot of stuff already. Like they've been like cultivating their academy for a very long time. And not just like the players that are around them, but then players that need to leave and go there so that then they can set up their move. Like those are very, very intentional things that we are a stretch away from. So in the meantime, we have to win. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
We need to really like focus, and this is a big priority for Sebastian. Like we need to focus to build out the academy, to build out the structure in terms of getting good coaches, getting quality competition, building out those teams, changing the way that a Chattanooga player is, like making a Chattanooga player, and I mean like a player like from the club, but also from the city, to be known and relevant, coming out. That will take time. And at the club's perspective, like we're going to need to really continue to focus on facilities, so that the training environment can be the best possible environment to learn and grow. And we know that the club has a focus on facilities because we see it with HQ going up if you drive by 27 every day. Like that building is fundamentally different every single day.
If you're wondering which one it is, just look at where the giant CFC flag is on the side.
So
yeah. Well, I guess we are in the grand Ponzi scheme of American soccer.
Hell yeah.
we are still getting in on a relatively low floor. I mean,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
it's yeah.
And if you believe like I do that everything is going towards MLS one day, the MLS system one day, we are very early in
The buyout.
The merger.
The buyout.
We're very early in on that. I think you heard. I don't know if it was on this podcast or not, but like MLS Next Pro is the most scouted league in North America now. Teams are watching MLS, great, but they're looking for all of the young
they're
players.
just above Nisa in that. In that,
True. Nice is the second most, and it's very close.
yeah, very close.
Like people,
That feels like a Nice stat.
clubs around the world are looking towards MLS Next Pro for their next acquisition, because it'll come cheaper for them compared to other places in Europe.
And if you watch,
and it's a market that's just growing exponentially.
I don't remember if you said, I think you said this on the podcast, but maybe you said it right before we started recording. It looks to us, it's week 1. We are drawing massive conclusions because we're podcasters and it's fun.
We're winning the league.
We are winning the league. But also, we're drawing massive conclusions, but it looks like the league has leveled up once again. And if the league has leveled up once again, if the talent is a step better than last year, which last year was a big step forward from the year before that, and we weren't watching the year before that, but it seems like it was a big step forward from the year before that. Every year MLS Next Pro is stepping up. It's going to continue to get more and more scouted and more opportunities for us to hopefully get talented guys in here from the league.
And that benefits all of American soccer. That's going to benefit MLS, obviously. That's going to benefit us in Next Pro. That's going to benefit other 3-letter leagues.
And the one thing that'll really help is if we get replays on Apple TV.
Amen. I really want to watch I want to watch the second half. Like
I just want to watch. I just want to watch the game again. I mean, I just need to watch the game again.
yeah. Hey, Kyle, if you're listening, DM me. I think, I need to figure out if it's possible to see those games. Well, guys, do we have anything left, or are we good?
That's the end of my list.
Jim.
Well, if it's the end of Matt's list,
then we're probably good.
Probably done.
Jim, thanks for joining as always.
No problem.
Matthew, thank you for making it happen. What were you gonna say?
I have nothing else to do, so
let's keep it that way. Nobody make this man work. We like podcasting on a weekday. Matt and I've been wanting to podcast with other people, and it's just me and him on a random Monday. Matthew, have a safe trip to Nashville. Listeners, viewers, it is the home opener this weekend.
yeah. Oh, right.
Come hang out. Come hang out in 109 is my push for you, and then
It's Nashville too, right?
Nashville 3.
3.
Nashville 3. And then post game, we will be at Naked River. Naked River is back open. They have been wonderfully hospitable the last few games in the preseason. Since they've reopened and we've been able to go over there, it rules. Players come over. A lot of the front office comes over. Come to after the game. If you've never done that before, or if you haven't done it in a while, come do it. It's really cool. It's really fun.
We need to make Naked River Naked River.
Naked River?
Yeah.
All right. Come to Naked River after the game. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. Catch up with you soon. Peace.